we all know rankings and all that shit don't mean anything. It's what the UFC wants. It's what the fans or what they think is going to sell, what they think is going they're going to ride the hot hand. Again, that's why O'Malley is in the Merab fight. He was the hottest hand still left available, standing and ready to do this. And, Khalil's got a very hot hand right now, and I think we go out there, it's even hotter. So I think that that's a real big possibility that we might get that next shot.
He is one of the top coaches in all of mixed martial arts, and he has a very, very busy month ahead, so we're getting to him early. Always excited to talk to the man from Syndicate MMA, Coach John Wood. Coach, how are you?
I am great, man. I am great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mentioned, of course, a very, very busy month ahead. You got all kinds of fighters. I know we tend to focus on a couple of the bigger names, but obviously you're always very busy. But June in particular is going to be a very busy month for you.
Oh yeah. Just the two trips. There's a fight every weekend. I think we have a fight every weekend all the way booked out until July for UFC. Small shows, big shows, LFA, whatever. But June is going to be insane. Starting off with Merab, obviously June 7th over a trip out to the East Coast, and then come right back home, get on a plane, see my family for a couple of days, and get on a plane and head out to Baku, Azerbaijan for Khalil and for Nas. So that's going to be, a lot of travel right there.
Absolutely. I know we spoke after, obviously getting into Merab's fight. I know we spoke right after the win against Umar, incredible victory. And then at that point, I think we were all kind of like, what's going to happen next? And then they announced the O'Malley fight, and there was kind of like two reactions. There was one side, which is like, well, running it back, O'Malley's a big name. We get it. Then there's the other side, which I admit I kind of sat on that side of the fence. I was like, well, the fight wasn't really that close, and O'Malley hasn't. It's a weird situation where the challenger hasn't fought, but the champion has. So I know you as his coach are just there getting him ready for whoever they give you. But what was your initial reaction when Merab or whoever said, "Hey, we're getting O'Malley again"?
Listen, we kind of knew with Sandhagen and Figueiredo being booked, those were the only two outside options, and they were fighting each other. So we knew that it was going to be a rematch. There's just nobody else in the division. Jan is going to be between Jan and O'Malley, and we were told pretty quick that it was leaning towards O'Malley, so we kind of knew that was what was going to happen. But Jan and O'Malley, I thought Jan obviously to me makes more sense because he's actually been fighting, and like you just stated, O'Malley lost. And I don't think it was a close fight at all, and it's usually strange that the challenger usually has to go out and, win a fight in pretty decent fashion to even be sniffing the title again. So I think this might be the first time this has actually ever happened kind of like this. But, O'Malley's a star. And obviously I think some of his shine has been lost up through that loss and not having the belt. But he's still a guy that, he's big on social media. He's big. He drives numbers, So the UFC's smart. The UFC knows how to do their job better than anybody out there. So why not put the biggest name forward? I think that it'll still get eyes on it. And to them, it's like, if he loses this, it only boosts up Merab, the champion, even more. Like I said, I think he's a name that's still going to get the eyes on the fight. But it is interesting. And we're ready for whoever. And obviously, we've never had a rematch with somebody, so it kind of provides a different kind of challenge. Somebody who's been in there and felt Merab before, which that's one of the biggest elements. The element of surprise of getting in there with a guy who, everybody thinks, I'll break him, or everybody thinks, he looks silly, he's slow, he's this, he's that, and you get in there and you realize, holy shit, this is a different animal. So now he's going to expect that. So I'm going to expect, it's a good challenge for me as a coach to kind of figure out how they think that they would work this any different, how they would kind of, come up with a different game plan, because the first one obviously didn't work, and I know, like I said, O'Malley stated that he had bad hips for that fight. Now he's got two good hips, and whatever. I get it. And so cool, man. We'll see how it goes, but I don't see it going much different.
Well, we all know the motivation for Sean O'Malley, because in a lot of ways this is do or die, right? Because if he loses to Merab a second time, he's going to be out of the title hunt for, as long as Merab's got the title, you have to imagine he's not going to get anywhere near that again. And he lost, so that's the easy motivation. Now for Merab, the flip side is he beat O'Malley pretty dominantly. It was not close fight. You know, I think you could maybe argue O'Malley won one round, maybe, and that's an argument. So the other side is like when you've beaten a guy so dominantly, like how do you get up for that again, right? And it's not like it was 3 years ago; it was less than a year ago. So like, do you? I imagine you have to. Not that Merab lacks motivation, but I assume you have to like incorporate that in your head a little bit because in Merab's head, at least in my head, I'm like, I just beat this guy like lopsided fashion like 8 months ago.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about Rob. He is a different kind of machine. He came back to me instantly and was just like, Coach, push me harder. I don't want to take any kind of let's make it like we've never fought this guy. He's a killer. Da, 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 da. He was so motivated to make sure that like we train harder. We've actually been training harder for this camp than any other camp. We've been training more, brought in more partners, and we're having. I mean, it's always cliche. I get it, but this is the best he's ever looked. We're having a tough time keeping training partners in the rounds. Like we're there. We've added some new things. We've added some wrinkles. And I've said this in every interview before. Merab is so green in MMA that he's still learning. And he's a guy, what makes him a champion, he's excited about learning. So we're adding new things. And that's my job, to keep him excited, to keep him motivated. And the way I look at it, like Rob is such a smart fighter, and his MMA IQ is just going higher and higher every day. We had a sparring session today with Aljo and some great guys, and oh my God, he did 3 or 4 little things that he's never done before. It just blows my mind. He's getting better every day, and so he loves learning. So it's not hard to keep him motivated. And I've come at this in a different perspective to make him think a little bit different. Of hey, we're going to get better. This is the purpose. This is the game plan. Now, this is how I want you to make this fight happen. And it challenges him. You give that guy a little bit of a challenge, and his eyes light up when he goes in the cage. He does something in sparring that you just taught him. So I'm actually really, really excited for this fight, even being a rematch. We can't take Sean. Sean's a great fighter, great fighter. He's got knockout power. He's a former champion, and you got to take him serious. He's always one punch away from ending the fight. So you cannot just go out there, But, in my mind, it's my job to rework, to sit there and play devil's advocate of how they think they would do any better in this fight, how they think they're going to, we're going to come out and do this, and it's going to change this fight. I have a pretty good guess of what I think they're going to do. Do I think it's going to work? No, because I think that we're going to be able to counter all those things, but maybe not. Who knows? Like I said, this is a fight game. It's crazy. That's why everybody loves it, because anything can happen any day. The best fighter doesn't always win. So, you got to be up and you got to be sharp. And that, like I said, the best thing that makes Merab a champion is his drive, his willingness. The dude takes no time off. He trains the same way every day, fight or no fight. He's learning every single day. He's one of those guys that, like, it's very hard to keep fighters outside of when they have a camp going on, to keep them in the gym and keep them learning, keep them motivated. He is not that guy. He is back in the gym. He is learning every day. He is grinding, fighting, doing 10 rounds every single time, we spar, where I'm like, Rob, stop. It's the guy. Like I said, there's a reason why he's champ, and we're going to stay champ. There's a reason why he's going to keep that belt for a long, long time.
And I know, listen, ultimately a win is a win. Whether you go out there and you win 48-47 or you get a first round stoppage, a win is a win. So I want to be clear about that. But do you also take it as a challenge upon yourself that, like, I know it's Sean. I know O'Malley's game. I know you laugh, like, where, 2 days after the fight, he said nice things, and a week later he's like, oh, I actually won the fight. Now, we all know different. I think we can all see through the video of, like, this is just him trying to get a rematch. I get it. But is there a little extra challenge as they go out there and kind of shut this guy down to the point where there is no third fight? There is no, like, afterwards to say, like, oh, absolutely, I see where I could have won a round, or I could have, to go out there and beat him even more dominantly.
Absolutely. There is no motivation to go out there and do the exact same thing we did before. It's go out there and do it 10 times better, or 10 times worse for Sean. I expect you are going to see a Merab who is doing damage, a Merab who is looking for finishes, a Merab who is, if O'Malley survives 5 rounds, he's going to look different. It's going to be different. He's going to feel different. That's kind of how we're going now. To go out there and say we're going to finish Sean, I'm not going to make that huge bold statement, but it ain't going to be for lack of trying. Merab is going to go out there and try to finish Sean. Merab is going to go out there, and everybody we fight from here on is going to be looking for finishes, looking for damage. And those are the things that we're working on and adding to his game. And it's even more motivating for him when we start kind of doing these things, because now in sparring and the things that we see with the threats, with the submission threats, with the damage and the ground and pound and the striking all coming, it's making people even more tired. So what would maybe they would be able to last 3 rounds, maybe they're going a round and a half, and they're going, holy shit, this guy's trying to kill me now. So the motivation is to go out there and finish on. And if that doesn't happen, like I said, it's not for lack of trying. It's not for lack of Sean should be a changed man after this fight if he goes 5 rounds. So that's where I think Merab's head is at. That's where I think the motivation for this fight is going to lie, is to do these things better than we did before. And that's like Merab lives for that. So I think we're going to see a great fight.
I mean this in absolutely no insulting way towards Sean O'Malley. I want to be clear about that. I'm not trying to insult the guy, but if you were to ask me and say, what is the tougher matchup between Umar Nurmagomedov and Sean O'Malley, I would say Umar Nurmagomedov, because stylistically he has the wrestling, he has the grappling, things that we know Merab does incredibly well. And that to me was like, to me, one of the greatest performances in the last 5 years of the sport, watching Merab go out and beat a guy. Because I think we would all agree Umar Nurmagomedov is very, very good.
Oh yeah.
Sean O'Malley, don't get me wrong, good fighter, but stylistically, I think Merab is a nightmare for him. Am I wrong in my thinking of saying, I know you're not looking at this and, oh, it's an easy fight, but in terms of stylistic matchup, Merab is a nightmare for O'Malley versus I think Umar was the matchup. I'm like, ooh, this is really intriguing. This is a guy who could maybe counter what Merab does really well. Didn't work out. Merab still won. But stylistically, I look at this fight and I say, there's a clear path to victory for Merab Dvalishvili in this fight.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing, they're all tough fights, fighting all the tough guys. I think Umar's skill set is the best out there. We just knew how to deal with it. And, it's one of those things where they both present different problems. I think that Umar is the toughest fight or was going to be the toughest fight for Merab at the time. And I think, we'll end up fighting him again sometime, and the same thing. We beat them. They asked for the fight. We came out, oh, I'm injured, I'm this, I'm that. Well, Merab was half dead for that fight. People don't understand. He had an open wound. He had a staph infection. He was on all kinds of antibiotics. I personally, if it was up to me, honestly, and I haven't really told anybody, I probably would have pulled him out of the fight. I honestly would have. It was that bad. But that dude, could barely walk, but then he'd go spar 10 rounds and look phenomenal. So I knew he could do it. So I knew that, in the room, I was like, oh man, we're going to win this fight. But in the back of my head, I was like, Jesus, he's so banged up. So, the fact, and like I said, Umar's, I got a busted hand. You guys asked for the fight. You just said, we wanted to fight later on. We said we'd fight you. You wanted to take the time off for Ramadan. So they pushed it before they took the fight. And then, we got this, we got that, whatever. It's the same thing. Everybody's always going to have those excuses. I will tell you this, if Merab ever loses that belt, you will not hear excuses from him. You will not hear, oh my God, my leg was falling off, or, it was raining outside, or whatever it is they come up with. But Umar was a tough fight. There was no doubt in my mind that Merab was going to win that fight. The way that Merab fights, what he brings to the table is just different. People do not understand it. And that's why, like I said, this fight's kind of intriguing, because Sean kind of knows that now. Tim knows that. They kind of have felt that. But what's going to happen is they're going to have a good round, or maybe a round or two. But once things start to turn the same way they did before, I think it's going to be even more defeating and deflating than it was the first time. And that's where, like I said, it brings a different kind of matchup for us. But I think there's plenty of other matchups, honestly, that are, Sean's a great fighter. Same thing you said, not taking it away from him. But there are better people. There are people that bring different kinds of problems, maybe more problems than Sean has. And I don't think he's a one-trick pony. I think O'Malley's got great jiu-jitsu. I think he's obviously stand-up is his thing. But you would have to have somebody who can stop Merab's wrestling. And that's okay if you do that, because we're working day and night on the stand-up too. Merab is not afraid to stand up with somebody and bang it out if he needs to. But we just saw what happened with the Bilal, and Jack fight, where I think Bilal kind of got off his game plan and maybe didn't fight the smartest fight, thinking he's going to go out and use Canelo hands, you're never going to have me tell Merab or even let Merab go, hey, go out and use Canelo hands and knock somebody. No, no, no. We're going to play our game. We're going to do it until somebody defeats us or beats us in that situation. And we're going to keep getting better at all those things. We're not going to change it. So we'll see what goes on with O'Malley. And then obviously there's a lot of tough fights after this. Everybody, we're at the top. So we're always fighting the best top guy. Jan, in my mind, Jan is always such a game tough opponent. I'm a big fan of Peter Yan. I think his style is great. I think he's got a very well-rounded style. We'll see him again soon. And then obviously Sandhagen is in there. I personally, I think those two should probably fight for the number one contender spot, and when we have a clear-cut next dance partner.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's kind of unfortunately how we ended up with O'Malley, because we didn't have a number one contender, and so it's kind of like by default. And just being honest, kind of by default, he got the title.
Yeah. O'Malley should have fought Jan or Sandhagen or anybody. He should have fought anybody and come off and got this this chance again. I think that's just the standard. If you lose the title, you got to go out and fight somebody and win in decisive fashion to be able to come back and get a shot at it again.
I think that says so much about Merab, though, that he didn't blink. Like, just like with Umar in January, like, I know the timing wasn't perfect for that fight, and knowing what you just told me now, and for people who don't know, when you take antibiotics, it zaps your body. Like, your cardio is supposed to go to zero on antibiotics. That's why people hate doing it. To know what he went through to go through that, and he did it, and then this one, same kind of thing. Like, in the back of my head, I'm like, why would he even bother taking this? He just beat this guy like 8 months ago, but that seems like that's who Merab is. He doesn't blink. They're like, you want to fight Umar in January? Great. You want to fight O'Malley again in June? Great. That just seems like his mentality, like, give him to me. Just keep feeding me.
Yeah, he loves to fight. He wants to fight 3 more times after this. If he can, he'd love to get him in. If he could fight every other month, he would, and so he's also trying to be, a company man and do what the UFC wants him to do. And he's a guy that's not going to, at this point in time, I don't think there's anybody we need to shy away from. He's going to do everything they ask of him. And honestly, I think he's going to end up becoming, one of the most dominant champions there was.
100%. I hate that I even have to ask this question, Coach, but I have to ask this question because after the last one we spoke, a couple days after Merab won the title and did what he did, and I mentioned the Tim Welch situation with him yelling, and Herb Dean, I loved it. Herb Dean immediately cut him off. It's like, no, we're not doing this. We're not playing this game. But realistically, the reason I have to ask this question, A, because it has happened multiple times, and B, this is now in Jersey. Different commission. I don't know who the referee is going to be. I know Jersey is a good commission, by the way. They're the oldest commission. I mean, they've been around. They were the ones who legalized the MMA rules. So it's not a knock on them. But can I ask, like, I won't say maybe concern's the wrong word, but is there going to be a conversation before him, whoever the referee is, whoever the commission is, to make sure that doesn't happen? And the only reason I have to bring it up because unfortunately it's happened multiple times with Tim.
Yeah, of course we'll have that talk. Of course that, it will be brought up, and I think Tim will do it again. But I mean, feel free to talk to Merab all you want. Like, I just gave him more motivation, so I'm good. Tell Merab what you want him to do, and he'll, he'll go ahead and do it. It didn't work. It's not going to work again. I've stated this before, whatever you think you got to do to get your fighter up for the game, whatever you think you got to do as a coach to try to take the advantage, do it. For long as it's within the realm, I actually think that's a rule. You're not supposed to do that. But I mean, the old saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So it's I would never have to feel like I would have to talk to Sean or anybody else who Merab's fighting to get an advantage. So go ahead, like I said, and if it gets you more hits or more clicks on your podcast or your TikTok or whatever, those guys do, then great for you. He got a lot of play off that. So I think Tim's a good coach. I like Tim personally. I don't take any offense to it. Do I think it's stupid? Absolutely. But if I guess that maybe they think that it worked for the Aljo fight, so it's something we're gonna, keep him doing, and go ahead. But we'll talk to the referees about it. But I don't think it's going to be a problem in any way, shape, or form.
I always joke because unfortunately the reality of the sport is like I don't think they penalize fighters enough for when penalties happen. I joke. Yeah. I don't want anyone to really do this, but I joke. It's like, if you're a fighter, why are you not just going out and immediately just kicking a field goal into someone's balls? Because they never penalize you for the first groin strike. I was like, you might as well either kick a field goal, punt the ball right into the right and start the fight, because they're never going to penalize you. But I gotta imagine in the back of your mind just a little bit the fact that he tries to use that as an advantage for whatever it's worth, and even if it doesn't work, doesn't that kind of say something about O'Malley though? Like his guy, like why would he need to do that? Like why would you want to give that advantage? You know what I mean? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like why would you want to? Why do you feel necessary to try to get that like mental advantage? Wouldn't that kind of hurt O'Malley that you got to like? I would say cheat. I don't know the word I'm using here. You know what I mean, Coach? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Again, all I'm going to say is I don't feel or never would feel that I would need to do any of that stuff for Merab or any of my fighters. But again, there's a lot of people that have had successful careers and cheated a lot. And I'm not saying that it was cheating, it's maybe bending the rules. And I do think that, like, to speak on the penalties, the referees always tell you in the back, this is your first hard warning. If you do it once, you're taking a point. No one ever takes a point. You got to basically rip somebody's eyeball out or kick their nuts off to even get a point. Like you kick somebody in the balls 4 times and then maybe they're talking about it. So there is a lot of stuff with the judging criteria, the reffing criteria, the things, and not a knock on the refs. The refs got the hardest job in the world. The referees, I feel bad for them, the shit that they have to go through. The judging is more of like where I would say a lot of the problems and the criteria that's set is very but someday they might get that changed and get that right, get actual people that know what they're doing, judging and looking at these fights. But yeah, I don't think the penalties are very stiff at all. I don't think there's enough points taken to maybe make people want to do this. But, my always thought is like, I don't remember 10, 15 years ago coming up, I don't remember anybody ever really getting poked in the eye. And if they got kicked in the dick, it was like, oh God, it was like every now and then. So it's weird how things have shifted. I think it's just footwork dynamics and the way people play with their hands, the way the striking has evolved. And I don't know how we stop that. I do not ever tell people, hey, go out there and kick them in the dick just for, but yeah, I mean, maybe that's part of the tactics. Maybe they'll try that this time to slow Merab down a little bit. But, yeah, it's an interesting situation with those things.
It's funny, like we talk about, like I really did appreciate in that last fight, Herb Dean was like, stop the fight. He's like, we're not doing this. And I was like, great job. But it's really going to stop it if he does it at the start of the first round. The referee's like, point deduction. Guarantee you, Tim Welch would not say another word the rest of the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I think you could start changing, and even I like the theory of even going into like the weight cuts. If someone missed weights, take a point. If they want to fight, take a point off of it. Like immediately, you lose a point, you lose your purse, or part of your purse, and you lose a point. Start doing things that will motivate people to not, and that's probably one of the biggest things. Is I don't know a lot of people that maybe don't make weight on purpose, but the odds and the percentages of people that don't make weight that end up winning fights is huge. Start taking points away in penalties for these things. Start making, if you really are in the back saying, hey, this is your hard warning, then start applying that in a fight. Hey, one more time and you get a point. You get one warning in the fight and then boom. And so I think those things would start actually fair play, because like I said, I do think getting poked in the eye, if you can't see the rest of the fight, that's a disadvantage. Okay, if you want to poke me in the eye, then take a point, and maybe I'll fight with one eye, but I can still at least have a fair advantage that I'm probably going to get at least a tie in this round or win the round by 2. Same thing with the dick kicks. Like it really is something that is very loose in MMA, and a lot of things are kind of like that in our sport. We're still growing and evolving. We're still coming up. So hopefully one day all that gets figured out. But man, it's at the end of the day, it's fighting. Fighting's freaking crazy, dude. The shit we do, to get ready for it, the shit you do to get into another cage with another man who wants to freaking beat the shit out of you. It's nuts, so it's chaotic enough. But, I think that's all part of it. It's all part of just the process and the chaos that comes with it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, of course, we've been talking a lot about Merab, but I mentioned you have a very busy June because a couple of weeks after Merab fights, you're going to be traveling all the way to Azerbaijan for Khalil Rountree coming back finally. Now, there's part of me that's like, I'm glad they pre-booked the fight, because I think the Jamal Hill fight, I think we talked about this even right after the Merab fight. I think we agreed that was kind of the fight that needed to be made, and sure enough, here it is. April, Kansas City. The only downside is now you have to fly halfway around the world to Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
But this is so. Can I ask like kind of a two-part question? I gotta imagine there was some disappointment because, from my understanding, like I'd heard Khalil talk about this, like they never really heard a total reason. I guess it was some kind of injury, but not bad enough to cancel the fight totally. But now you have to fly. Nothing. I'm sure the fans in Azerbaijan are going to be amazing. I want to be clear about that. But you still have to fly halfway around the world for a fight, and that's never fun. That's never convenient.
Yeah, no, and it's it's definitely not a convenient thing. It's part of the job. It does suck that we went from going from a 3-hour flight to a 20-hour flight. We do have Nazim Sadiklov, who is actually he's from there, so we're gonna have a hometown guy on the main card too. So it's gonna be, that'll kind of make things a little bit better too. He can kind of give us the lay of the land. But the fact is these guys, they're going out 2 weeks early. I got to go out 10 days early. It just disrupts everything. It disrupts what your normal process is here, your day-to-day operations. Instead of being gone for 5 days, you got to be gone for 2 weeks. You got to figure out a whole new process, your sleep schedule, all that stuff is always a pain in the ass. The fact of, like I said, you're going around literally the other side of the world, and it just disrupts everything. The jet lag, just the timing. It's all a pain in the ass, but it is a part of the job that people, you just have to do. Whatever the UFC decides is what we have to do, and you have to kind of just get your mind wrapped around it real quick and change gears and say, okay, this is what it is. So is it the ideal thing? No. Would I rather go to Kansas? Yes. Would I rather my fighters fight in the States? Yes. But like I said, that's part of the job. That's part of the job when you have a lot of fighters, and especially we got a ton of foreign fighters here too. So, they're going to get put on different cards. And, I think we're already lining up for Abu Dhabi and a couple other ones. So it's just part of the job.
Yeah, well, this is still a tremendous matchup, but now we've had a bit of shake up at light heavyweight. I mean, I think we all imagine one day maybe we get to see the rematch with Alex and Khalil just because that was such a tremendous fight. But now, I mean, you could argue there's even clearer path to a title shot because of the new champion, Ankalaev being the champion, Khalil, being who Khalil is, and if Khalil can go out there and beat and knock out Jamal Hill, which I think is very capable of doing, you jump right back in the thick of things because, just like I know O'Malley's kind of the exception to the rule apparently, but generally speaking, no matter how you lose, you don't generally just get to jump right back in there. But now, being in the champions in there is I would imagine a clear path back there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been all kinds of talk, of Pereira being unhappy about something, or whatever the situation is going behind the scenes, and his IG got hacked, so who knows what's going on and what that rematch is coming, but it doesn't sound like great. So I think we're in a perfect position, like you said, to go out there and have a massive performance against Jamal. And I think that if we get that KO, that puts us literally right in the conversation of who's next, and shoot, if not, maybe it's we're fighting Pereira again for the next title shot if Ankalaev gets booked. Who knows? There's all kinds of things, but I know that Khalil's right up there. It didn't really feel like a loss against Pereira and the things that have come with it and all the, the stuff that has been very positive since that fight. So I think that, one big win, over Hill, which I truly believe is going to happen. Our name's in the conversation, and the UFC, ultimately, we all know rankings and all that shit don't mean anything. It's what the UFC wants. It's what the fans or what they think is going to sell, what they think is going to they're going to ride the hot hand. Again, that's why O'Malley is in the Merab fight. He was the hottest hand still left available, standing and ready to do this. And, Khalil's got a very hot hand right now, and I think we go out there, it's even hotter. So I think that that's a real big possibility that we might get that next shot.
And I know loss is a loss. I know that nothing ever erases that, but we said this before when we spoke after Khalil's fight. Some losses are better than others. And that's a guy yes, it's a loss. So I know he doesn't sit there and, I know he's not celebrating it, but you could not have had a better result of coming off. I think you rarely see a guy gain traction after a loss. I think that's what Khalil did. Now he gets to go out there and fight another former champion. If he goes out there and I like Jamal. Jamal's a very good fighter, but he is also the kind of guy who's going to give Khalil those opportunities because he likes to strike. We know what Khalil can do on the feet. This is a chance for him to go out and get a highlight reel victory and jump right back in the thick of things.
100%. I think that I love the style. I really hope, when this fight happened, because this is the third time that we prepared for this fight now. It was before, I think, before the Pereira fight. We were booked with him, or that was in the process, and then something happened and we got booked through Pereira, and then this next time. So, I mean, I just hope, I told Khalil, hey, be prepared that, that we might not be fighting Hill. It might get switched and they might find somebody and bring somebody in. Because if this fight doesn't happen this time, we're not doing it. But I love the style, and obviously, Jamal is a great fighter, and he's very dangerous too. He's big, he's tall, he's long, he hits like a truck. But I do believe that the openings and the things are going to be there for Khalil to take advantage of, and it's a great fight. And again, our stock is no one likes to lose, but if you're going to lose, the best way to lose was the way that he lost to Pereira. Let's say, this, we just saw this last weekend. I think Bilal's stock actually might have gone up, for that loss. He lost that belt, so that sucks for him. No one wants to do that. But he went out there and showed some different things, and had a banger of a fight with a guy. So I think you got people definitely looking at him in a different light too. So sometimes, just going out there and fighting your ass off is just as good if you're able to have that great performance. And yeah, I mean, I think that so I think you'll see Khalil fighting for the belt here real quick in the near future.
Absolutely. Real quick before I get you out of here, Coach, listen, MMA is kind of your life. I mean, obviously, your life as a former fighter, you own a gym. But be honest, are you a bigger fan of MMA now or pickleball? Because I see you playing pickleball on your Instagram.
Oh man, listen, I I enjoy pickleball. It's fun, but I'm not one of these pickleball nerds like Danny Ruby, Rubenstein from Ruby Sports. He lives, breathes it. He's the biggest pickleball nerd I've ever met in my life. Pickleball shirts. You're never going to see me wearing a pickleball shirt. Like, fighting will always be my baby. The biggest thing with pickleball is I went to actually his birthday party. He had a pickleball thing, and I was watching two 65-year-old, a man and woman, just crushing people and not even moving much. They're just ripping it, bop, 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 bop. And I was like, shit, I can do that. I want to do that. So I'm transitioning to the next phase of life when I do get old and fat, that I'm still able to think that I'm some kind of athlete, But pickleball is it's fun, man. It's amazing. We go out there and we actually call it puggleball, me and JoJo, and we play every morning with our pugs, and they catch the balls and bring it back to us. And so it's good. It's just another little form of, it actually does help break the monotony of fighting, because I think that that is really the only other thing we do. So it's good.
So many fighters. I'm not a golfer. I'm just not a golfer. But I know so many fighters are into golf, and that's totally cool. But I'm way more into pickleball than I would ever be golf. Like, I know, because
Pickleball.
yeah, I like it. I used to play tennis in high school. I was a tennis kid, so like that was like another version of that. But I can't get. So many fighters are into golf, and I'm like, golf is so boring to me. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. I just can't get, like, golf. I've never understood. I think maybe it's just way above my pay grade as far as technical. And I'm not built for golf. I can barely lift my hands over my head here, so I ain't getting no golf swing. And it's crazy the amount of fighters, like, especially in Vegas, like, everybody plays pickleball. And when we bought our new house, we just had a massive backyard, and we're like, well, you know what? Let's build a court for the kid. We got a basketball court, and he's out there shooting hockey pucks every day. Let's put a pickleball thing in there, and it's been. I wouldn't lie if I can't lie and say that I don't enjoy it more than I thought I would. I really do. Like, I love it. I don't see myself ever being a pickleball world champion, but we had a staff tournament this weekend. We had all the staff and coaches come over, and it was great, man. And everybody, it's just something that, like, everybody can do, and it makes you kind of feel athletic, So it's good, man. It's cool. It's fun.
You spend so much time with your head wrapped around MMA, and rightly so. You're one of the top coaches in the sport. You're one of the biggest gyms in the sport, but you got to get your head around something else occasionally, whether it's pickleball. I know you're a Raiders guy. I know I'm a big concert goer. Like, I just went to Metallica a couple days ago.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
break the monotony somehow. You got to get away from fighting somehow.
Yeah, those are my things. Like, I love music, so any concert. I just saw Danzig, a few weeks ago out here. Video games is probably the easiest, plop down on the couch, just zone out. And then, obviously pickleball is a new thing. I love bowling, anything that doesn't take too much effort. If I just, I want to stand there and hit something or roll a ball, but yeah, it is. I absolutely love fighting, and I'm not even, I do eat, breathe, sleep it. And there's nothing more I'd rather be, doing than be in the gym and trying to figure this stuff out. But you do have to have other things that kind of get you away from it, get your mind out of it, and just kind of reset a little bit.
How was Danzig? I saw Danzig like a decade ago. I used to work in college. I worked at a CD store. We were right down the street from a big concert venue, and he actually came in and shopped at our CD store. My first reaction was, "My God, you're short," because he's really little guy, but he puts on a hell of a show. The Danzig concert.
Yeah, and if you watch him, he wears like 5-inch platforms when he got his boots. But it was awesome, man. Like there was a period a few years ago, like I said, I'm a huge metal guy and music in general. And obviously Glenn's he's a legend. So I'm at the age where, anybody I grew up listening to, if they come through, I got to go see them because I'm like, shit, they might die next year. I don't know how many more times I'm going to be able to see Metallica play like they're playing, or Pantera. I got tickets to, see those guys coming up here soon. But Danzig was awesome. He rocked it, and he sounds great. Everything, it's great. So that music was my first love. I thought, if I wasn't going to be a coach, I would have been a rock star. I feel like I missed my calling on that one. But, I love going to concerts, and anytime I get to see the legends, I'm going to do it.
I feel terrible saying this because you mentioned that, but I'm honest. I saw Iron Maiden like 2 years ago, and that was in the back of my mind. I was like, man, I don't know if Iron Maiden's going to be around forever. So I was like, I better catch them now while I can.
Yeah, it sucks. Getting older sucks, man. I just went and got this morning my first pair of glasses. I had to go I still got good eyesight, but like sometimes I'm starting to look at this stuff and I'm squinting. I was like, holy shit. So I'm in there trying on glasses. The lady's like, yeah, those age you a little bit. I'm like, oh, great. Never mind. So, we're at that point in time in life where it's like, yeah, you just got to enjoy everything while you can, while you still have your eyesight, where you still can go see shows. And, it's, I try to make sure that I enjoy those things.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, it's always a pleasure to catch up. I appreciate the time. Obviously, have a great rest of training camp with Merab and, of course, with Khalil as well. Can't wait to see you guys back in action in June. I know, obviously, beyond the two guys we're talking about, you have so many other fighters. So, of course, best of luck to everyone. Come up to the gym. Say hello to JoJo for me, and thank you as much for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, brother. Anytime. Appreciate it.